Hey there, welcome back. Jeb Smith here. So over the last couple of weeks when I've talked about the housing market and housing prices and the craziness happening in the housing market, I get a lot of people asking, well, who is driving up home prices? What group is it driving up home prices? And then I get a lot of people responding to those questions saying, it's, foreign investors, it's hedge funds, it's these groups, it's the government buying these properties and manipulating the market and driving housing prices up. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. The reality is it's a lot of first-time home buyers entering the market. It's a lot of move-up buyers entering the market, a lot of investors and second home buyers entering the market. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. We're actually going to pull up a report from the National Association of Realtors. It's their 2021 generational trends report. And what that report does is it goes over who's buying the property, what age groups are buying the property, how much money these groups make, what percentage they make up of home purchases. And it also goes into detail about how many were single or married or had kids or what have you. So we're going to take a little bit of time and dive into that report. But before we do that, I want to throw something here on the screen. And this is from the recent existing home sales report from the National Association of Realtors. This was from February. So this is recent information to show who the buyer pool was in February. With regards to home purchases. And now this is a really good indicator of who is buying property out there. And we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail in just a few minutes, but I'm going to throw this up there and let you read it. But essentially it says, first time buyers were responsible for 31% of sales in February. It's actually down a little bit from January and down a little bit from February of last year. Now, at the same time, you've got individual investors, second home buyers accounting for 17% of home sales in February. Now, these, purchases are, what make up a lot of the cash purchases. In fact, there were 22% of the purchases in February were cash purchases, and that's actually up 19% from January and up from 20% in February of last year. And then you have distressed sales representing less than 1% of purchases. And that's primarily because distressed sales, foreclosures have the moratoriums in place right now, right? When they expire, I would like to think, or not like to think, but I would think that these numbers would increase. A larger percentage of the purchases would be distressed and or foreclosures. I don't think that it's going to be a massive amount like a lot of people, have talked about, and I'll link to a video that I discussed that in the past. But let's take a minute and talk about cash buyers and foreign buyers, because that is what a lot of people are saying make up the buyer pool. Now, here in Southern California, I'm on the listing side of the transactions quite often, and I also represent buyers. And on the listing side, I haven't had foreign buyers at all that I'm aware of. Most of the buyers that have come to me are people that look to live in the property, have been here, have sold homes, purchased other homes, and a lot of times I know this because we've heard their story from buyer letters and what have you. So the buyers that are buying the properties that I'm familiar with are primarily move-up buyers, people just looking to gain more property for one reason or another, or perhaps downsize in some cases, but also a lot of first-time home buyers, people just coming to the market, getting their feet wet with purchasing homes. And then on the other side, I hear it's hedge funds, right? Hedge funds wanting to buy property, or hedge funds buying property. And the reality is hedge funds aren't looking to purchase property at, market value in most cases. If a hedge fund is looking to purchase property, they're looking to buy in bulk, in a lot of cases, buy a lot of properties at one time, and usually for a discount. That's how hedge funds make money on real estate when they're buying property. And, I not familiar with any examples at the moment where hedge funds are out there purchasing these properties. And a lot of times you're having to bid up and above the offer price in order to buy these properties. And, I've only seen individuals on contracts, not a lot of companies buying these. So I don't believe it is hedge funds or the government buying up these properties. It's normal home buyers. And in the report that we're going to pull up in just a minute is going to explain that in a little bit more detail. It's going to give us actually a lot of detail about who the home buyers out there are at the moment. And what I'll do is I'll link to this in the description below if you want to check it out in more detail. I'm going to highlight some of the key points of it. And in order to keep this moving forward, we're not going to go into everything, but this should give you a really good idea of what it's about. So let's take a minute here and pull that up. And so here is the report. Now, again, I will link to it in the description below, but it starts out by going into the age of home buyers and sellers. Now, it's breaking this down into generation because in a minute it's going to explain who is buying these, and essentially you would go back to figure out when these generations are if you weren't familiar with them. But most people are familiar with the Gen Zs and the millennials and the older millennials and what have you. I actually fall into the older millennials being born in 1980. But you have the younger millennials making up a big percentage of this buyer pool as well. So here we go. Shares of buyers and sellers by generation. You can see that the large majority, the dark blue are the buyers. That's what most people are thinking or considering at the moment. They don't really care who the sellers are, but the buyers being the large percentage here, the largest percentage being Gen Xers, which makes up 24%. And if we couldn't remember who Gen Xers were, we would go back and we would say they were born between 1965 and 1979. So they make up the largest pool of buyers. Millennials, the older millennials, which I fall into, make up 23%. The younger millennials, 14%. The Gen Zers, 2%. And then you have the young boomers, old boomers, and the silent generation making up the rest. Now we go here, I've highlighted a couple of things that I think are important, and it's some information that we just discussed, but it says millennial buyers 22 to 30 and buyers 31 to 40 continue to make up the largest share of home buyers at 37%. So they lumped all the millennials together, and these are the largest pool of buyers, and most of them being prime buying age, which we've talked about in different videos. The buyers 41 to 55, that's the Gen Xers, made up 24%. So as a whole, they were the largest percentage, but when you lump the millennials, the older and the younger millennials together, they actually come out being the larger percentage. And then you have buyers 56 to 65 consisting of 18% and 66 to 74 consisting of 14% of recent buyers. And there's more in there if you want to dive into it. Buyers 75 to 95 represented the smallest share at only 5%, and that's probably because of age. Once you're at that age, you're either staying put in most cases or moving to some sort of assisted living or moving in with friends or family in that case and not purchasing another home. 87% of home buyers finance their home purchase, so you can see the large majority of people out there aren't paying cash as a lot of people want to think. Younger buyers continue to depend on savings for their down payment, while older buyers are using proceeds from the sale of their previous residence. However, 28% of younger millennials are using a gift of a loan from a friend or family member or relative to purchase a home. So again, a large majority of people buying are millennials, and they're getting down payments. They're getting, gifts from family members. And then you have the baby boomers making up the largest share of sellers at 43%. So the large majority of people selling their home are the baby boomers. And a lot of people want to talk about the baby boomers. That's what's going to feed the inventory coming to the market is all these baby boomers selling their property. Well, they already make up 43% of the sales out there to start. And the reason you're not seeing more is a lot of these baby boomers are aging in place. They're now in a position where they've refinanced their mortgages to super low rates. It makes more sense to stay in the property that they're in than to try to buy something else, because in a lot of cases, they're probably going to pay more for another property versus just staying in the one they're in, just, based on where prices have gone. And then we get into some more information here. Now, I'm going to run through this pretty quickly, but first-time home buyers made up 31% of all home buyers, which was the same as the previous year. 24% of buyers 41 to 50 made up the largest generational group of buyers. So, a lot of people are saying, who are the home buyers? Well, 31% are first-time home buyers, just buying their very first house. 62% of recent buyers were married. So a lot of the people buying are married. Well, when you're married, a lot of times, maybe you owned a home, you need a move-up home. Maybe you're thinking of having kids or whatever, and so you need a property that, can accommodate that. 12% of home buyers purchased a multi-generational home to take care of aging parents. because children over the age were moving back, and for cost savings. 18% of buyers aged 41 to 55 purchased a multi-generational home, and buyers 75 to 95 comprised the second largest share at 17%. So a lot of multi-generational living. What does that mean? You got different generations living in one house. Some are taking care of parents. Some people are moving back in after college and what have you. This is the age of home buyers. And again, we looked at this earlier in the other report, but this kind of breaks it down by generation or by age, if you will. And again, 37% of millennials are purchasing property. This is income. So household income, what do these people make? What percentage of them make over $200,000? You can see here, all buyers, 13% of the buyers out there make over $200,000 per year. So, that is one buyer. If you got a married couple and you've got two of them, you've got, a pretty good dual income and may be able to afford, the prices that a lot of these properties are going to. That's the question, is who can afford these properties? Well, based on this, you've got 24, 31, 35, 48% of home buyers make at least $100,000 based on this report. So there's some money floating out there, and depending on where you live in the country, $100,000 goes a long way. California, not so much. This breaks it down into married couples versus single female, single males, married couple. I'm not going to get into all of that. If you want to take a look at the report, you can. This goes with children. How many have, children under 18 in property? And then you go here, home, the multi-generational, who's buying them, for reasons, all that good stuff. And it goes into ethnicity as well. 83% of all buyers are white or Caucasian, 7% Hispanic Latino, Asian making up 5%, Black African American 5%, and then other 3%. Well, that should give you a really good idea of who is out there buying property. Now, a lot of people want to believe that it's all cash purchases and hedge funds or whatever buying these properties. I guess it makes them feel better to think that you're up against cash or a hedge fund. The reality is it's a lot of people that have savings, putting large down payments, in most cases buying property. That's what I've seen. I recently lost out on 4 of the last 5 offers that I've submitted. And, I'm getting feedback from the agent. What offer did you accept? Why did you accept it? Just so I can tell my client. And we're hearing, large down payments. A recent one today, $250,000 down. They had multiple buyers that had $250,000 down on a $800,000 purchase. So we're talking large down payments in these cases. And, there are some cash purchases out there, but that's not the majority of buyers out there. You've got a lot of first-time home buyers making up a big pool of this, but just understand it's buyer demand and low supply. So you've just got a lot of buyers bidding on very few properties, and that's what's really driving prices up, more so than to think, it's foreign cash buyers coming in and just buying up the property, because that's not what it is. The question is, what changes this housing market? We've talked about that many, many times, and there's only one of two things that can happen. Either we either need more homes to come to the market, more supply to increase what's out there, and or we need rates to really rise and go up to a point where, buyer demand slows enough for that inventory to build. It's not that there's no inventory coming on the market, because there are homes coming to the market. The problem is they're going off the market in escrow as quickly as they're coming on, in some cases more quickly. So that supply is never able to build. But if rates were to go up high enough that, some buyers backed off, that might allow an opportunity in some cases for that inventory to build a little bit, and over time that would create more supply. Now, I don't think either of these scenarios are very likely in the near future. I don't think rates are going to go up to a point where it's really going to slow buyer demand enough for supply to build, and I don't see a lot of homes coming to the market, even new construction. Cost of lumber's gone up, the cost to build these properties has gone up, land isn't any less expensive, and so projects that are already in the works, a lot of those homes are accounted for. But it's one of those things that we're just going to have to take it month by month as we get more information on the housing market, as we see updated data and information put out. And as we get it, I'll continue to update you. I'll continue to provide you with information that I feel is useful, but I feel like this is, it gives you a really good idea of who you're out there competing against in a lot of cases. Now, depending on where you're located in the country, you could have more or one of a generation or a nationality or what have you. But as a whole, for the U.S., that's where it stands. I encourage you, if you like information like this, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. If you like the content, give me a thumbs up. But for now, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Appreciate all the support. Hope to see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.